Well, that will get started. Today we have Sharp Hub. We have Becky Astrup and Marisol Rodriguez with us, and we're excited to see their SBIR presentation and talking about how they can support clients within our region from Oklahoma up to North Dakota. So we will be turning this over to them in just a few minutes. I want to remind everyone that's a client in the Encountering Innovation program, that the demo program with Tech Warrior Enterprise has been going for 2 weeks. They have scheduled, they have additional schedule as they can next week. For those of you that have not taken advantage yet of this, we have been getting very good feedback from our clients about the demo program with John Matecki and Dan Demota with Tech Warrior Enterprise. So please make sure you take advantage of that. Just a reminder that on our Lunch and Learns coming up next week, we have EMP Shield. It's a great story of what they've done ever since they've pitched in 2018. And then on 9/11, we have should be having PTAC coming to work with us, talking to us about how to do business with the government and what they can do to help support and give you information. Then the conference week, 9/18, will be tied up all week, so we will not have a lunch and learn on 9/18. And then again on 9/25, we will be back, and we have some good support resource partners that will be on for us to be able to talk to us along with what's next with our beyond Encountering Innovation. With that in mind, I don't see any questions just yet. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Becky and let her take over. Becky, thanks for joining us and looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Alan. I think you have to tell it to stop sharing your screen.
There you go.
Okay, and now I think this is how we do it. I think it's going to work. Okay, great. Can you see my cover slide?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We're ready to go then. Well, thank you so much for letting us talk to everybody. We're really excited to have the opportunity to get the word out more across the region about this program that is funded by National Institutes of Health. So I'll go ahead and launch into it. The program is called Sharp Hub. You can see it's a very long acronym, and essentially this is a grant from the National Institutes of Health. And BBC is the company that I am the managing partner for. We're the recipient of this STTR award, along with our academic partner, the University of Kansas. And we also have academic partners at North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Nebraska as well. And the whole goal of this is NIH's goal to do mentoring, training, and networking to help innovators accelerate their transfer of biomedical and other life science technologies. So when I say life science, it doesn't necessarily have to be what you think of as typically drug discovery, that type of thing. It could be a software. It can be anything that you think impacts human health. So if you can make the case that impacts human health, it is potentially a candidate for assistance from Sharp Hub. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what is Sharp Hub, what's SBIR and STTR, and I'm going to breeze through that really quickly. So those of you already familiar, you don't have to put up with a repeat for long. Those of you not familiar may still have more questions at the end, but that's what we're here for, is to help answer those. We'll talk a little bit more about what agencies besides the NIH, National Institutes of Health, that you would expect have funding for life sciences, and how do you find the right one to fund you? And what I'm talking about here, by the way, is applicable in terms of finding the right agency, talking to them, all of that, even if your company doesn't happen to do life sciences. So a lot of what we're talking about here today is still relevant. And then we'll talk, for those of you who are in life science, how Sharp Hub can help you. So as I said, the goal of this project is to provide training, including this type of assistance. And the goals of the program are to form startup companies, or if you already are a startup company, to help you be more successful in advancing toward commercialization for things that impact human health. And so if you're in any of the 5 states shown, if your company is located there and you have a project that could be considered life sciences, you're eligible for our assistance at no cost to your company. If you're outside of the life science area, BBC is happy to work with you as well. Full disclosure, in that case, there would be a fee for the service, but you know, you're not left out in the dark. There is an opportunity. So let's start a bit on SBIR and STTR. And the reason we focus a lot on this for SharpHub is because if you're getting a company going, whether you're just very early in the formation stage out of university, or you've been going for several years, you maybe have some initial revenue, but you need money. Everybody needs money. And this is a unique program of the federal government that's aimed specifically at small business. And it's actually placed in legislation, as we'll talk about here in a second. $3.6 billion per year, so it isn't chump change. It's enough money to actually get some things done. And the intent is to support small business, to stimulate technological innovation, to develop products that have commercial merit. So all of the words in the name of the program are important to what its mission are. So if you're a small company, we'll talk a couple of minutes about eligibility that does research and development. You potentially could be funded by the SBIR STTR program. So this program has now been in place since the early 80s, and it's currently reauthorized through 2022 in its current form. And the programs are what they call set-aside. So each agency that has over $100 million of extramural R&D budget must allocate 3.2% of that toward SBIR and 0.45% if they have a budget over $1 billion to STTR. STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer, which just proves to me the government can't spell. How you get STTR out of that, I don't know. But anyway, it's a sister program. We'll talk a little bit about the differences. But for the most part today, when I talk about the programs, I'm going to just refer to SBIR because it's a lot quicker and easier to describe it that way. There are 11 agencies mandated to participate, so you can virtually anything that advances science or includes scientific discovery as part of what you're doing could potentially be funded here. The program was developed or authorized by Congress, but then the Small Business Administration oversees that program and sets the rules and regulations that we'll go over here that you're required to meet if you want to participate in the program. So you can see what those 11 agencies are here, and that gives you a quick idea as well of the range of things that they are going to be funding with this program. So almost anything you can think of should be funded by one of these agencies. The ones on the left are the size that they require both to participate in both programs, SBIR and STTR. The smaller ones on the right participate only in SBIR program. You could see the amount of funding that they had in 2019 for each of these. And another small distinction that we'll briefly refer to later is that some of these agencies, despite the fact you've heard of it as SBIR grant program, do issue grants and others issue contracts. So it's the mechanism that they use to issue the funds, and it really does make a difference in how you think about writing your proposal. So that's why we even mention it here. So, you know, why would you even want to think about this program? Well, you guys, if you want to take something to market, you want to change the world with what you're developing, you have to have money to commercialize. And you probably have already gotten familiar with doing debt funding or equity funding where you give up part of your company. But this is a novel type of funding. It's non-dilutive. Not only is it non-dilutive, which means that you don't give up any equity in your firm, it is also a non-repayable, non-refundable, so you don't have to pay back any of the debt. So it's a unique category of funding. But remember, it is just one element of a funding strategy. It isn't your entire strategy to get your company to market. And all of you who have something in the technological realm understand this concept of the valley of death, where you have something, but it's not proven far enough that investors are willing to dive in and take that risk. So if you talk to venture capital, they're saying things to you like, why don't you come back? This is really exciting, but why don't you come back when you have your more data, when you have your patent, when you have your first customer. And those are the things that you need the money to accomplish. That's where SBIR and STTR step in and help you advance your technology. Now, it won't get you all the way over that bridge that you see there, but it will get you quite a bit of the ways across to where you can then combine it with your other funding strategies to finally get to the market. The program is competitive, so you're applying against other companies. The success rate for phase 1 is approximately 12 to 15%, depending on the agency. For phase 2, it's higher because you have to have had a phase 2 first, but it's about 40%. And remember that if you work with somebody like SharpHub or with your SBDCs or some of the organizations that can help you with this, your chance is going to be higher than that just because you're going to do everything right. There's a lot of requirements. It's sometimes difficult to do everything correctly, and that alone is going to help you a lot. Phase 1 that I referred to is really the feasibility study, and that's where you prove that the technology could actually advance toward a product that's commercializable. Usually you'll get about $150,000 to $250,000 and 6 months to prove feasibility on your technology. And when you're successful there, you then go to the phase 2, which is more full research, where you actually develop a prototype in many cases, or develop your software for testing, or do some animal trials for your drug. There's a number of things that can constitute phase 2. That's typically going to be about $1 million to $1.5 million and a 2-year time frame. But remember that they talk about this program, anytime you hear of it, as being a 3-phase program. So you have the 2 phases where the agencies provide you funding, but then you get to the stage that they emphasize very heavily, but you're on your own as far as financing, and that's phase 3. That's the commercialization stage. And at that stage, I know a lot of you are very interested in Department of Defense, and Department of Defense buys stuff, so they could potentially be your phase 3 partner. But when they buy in phase 3, they're not using SBIR, STTR dollars to purchase. Otherwise, you can sell to the private sector as well, and you're responsible for developing that. So this just shows you the kind of time frame that you're looking at, that you're looking at what you want your technology to be in about 3 years or so. So wherever you are now, what advancements using science do you have to get it to where it needs to be at that point in time? And do remember that since this is a 2-phase program, that there will be, in most cases, a small gap between phase 1 and phase 2 where you're not collecting grant or contract revenue, so you need to plan for that as a company. There are some programs the agencies have to help mitigate that, but it is something as business owners you have to be aware of and plan into the planning process. So what do you need if you're going to partake in this program? So in order to even apply, you have to have developed a small business that is set up with an address, a company bank account, and a number of registrations. And this is, by the way, one of the partners of the SBDCs and of BBCs, as well as the PTACs. They're very, very helpful at helping you get your registrations put together. So there's a lot of organizations and structure that can help you with this part. And there are some additional requirements depending on what agency you're applying for. I've got listed here that with Grants.gov and eCommons, the ones you have to have for NIH, but if you're going for Department of Defense, there's DOD specific and there's NSF specific as well. You have to have a small business actually formed. It's got to be for-profit, although not profitable necessarily. You have to be U.S. owned and controlled with at least 50% of the ownership by U.S. citizens or permanent residents. So 49% could be owned by international entities or other foreign entities, but over half has to be owned by U.S. citizens. You have to have fewer than 500 employees with a company located in the U.S. and the R&D work that you're proposing to do done here in the U.S. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have foreign affiliates or people that you work with elsewhere, but all of the work has to be done on U.S. soil, even the consulting work. So the final thing that sometimes can hang people up a little bit is you do have to have company-controlled research space for the grant project. You don't have to have it until the time you get the award, but you have to have identified it. So you're going to have a space to do the work in. You're also going to have a project team that's appropriate to do the work that you're proposing to be done. So remember that for project success, you'll have your technical lead on the project. That's called the principal investigator. You may have advisors, consultants. You may have subcontractors, including universities. You have the other employees within the company. But they each, if you're going to build them on the project, they will have a specifically well-defined role of what they're accomplishing on this project that advances the technical and science on the project. So advisors typically are unpaid people. You need them to help advise you as a company, but typically they're not going to have a paid role on the project. But you can let the reviewers know you have those available to you, which makes you a stronger company. So the project team will consist of your employees, which is typically going to include the principal investigator, although as I'll mention in a minute, the PI could be at the university if you do an STTR. You'll have other personnel. You also can bring in consultants and subcontractors that bring specific equipment, experience, expertise, facilities, IRB committees, IACUC committees, things that you need for that type of activities. You can acquire those here. And then you have the other significant contributors that I mentioned that are contributing to your company, but they're not putting measurable effort on this particular project and getting paid. So you got your people in place, now you need facilities. So you have to have that company-controlled research space suitable to do the work proposed. So those of you in software, for example, need much different facilities than somebody who's doing drug development. So you've got to consider the work that you're doing. Some of that, the work that is on the company side of the budget, and we'll talk about that here in a second,